can't believe I forgot I ever had this song. I love this song. I don't know. It just sounds so mysterious. Good evening, Jennifer G. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Excited to
Doing
get
good.
started.
Yes, I was ready for this show yesterday, and thank God it's here. Going to be talking about. Um, I had this series a long time ago in the beginning, right around when I went to my boots on the ground trip out there, and I called it after I went out there and I started interviewing a bunch of people and talking to all sorts of, from, college to freaking grandpa, grandma. Um, a lot of questions and contradictions I was coming across. And I'm kind of looking at these autopsies like with questions and contradictions because there's some things I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense to either the timeline or the weapon or whatever else from the crime, but then also it kind of revealed some things too, like kind of like I didn't know Maddie was awake at all or even moving,
Mhm.
this whole time I just thought that they went in there first according to law enforcement. That's who was attacked first, and with the intoxication and just the position and how we didn't even really, Dylan had mentioned hearing Kaylee's voice, not Maddie's. So there was a lot of things like that really just pointed to Maddie being knocked out drunk, and just passed out. And then here, when we went into the autopsy documents, and no, that wasn't the case at all. That was very revealing to me,
Mhm.
especially about Maddie's. So, we're going to be talking about some of the autopsy questions and contradictions. And also, you did some research. I'm ready to hear what you got to say because I think we both had the same questions in that episode. By the way, if you haven't seen the episode, here's the link for it. Major trigger warning. But I think we both had the same question about the K bar knife and also the square to sharp, sharp, sharp. Um, and then also another question about the depth of the wounds, because that, I remember pointing it out on that episode, and I remember you pointing it out too. About we were both shocked that with a blade that's 7, 8 inches long, and somebody's going in there committing this crime that quickly, 4 people, the loss of adrenaline after 2 or 3, it's like, man, that had to be like a shoo, 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 but
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. And then when we saw the depths of the injuries, I think the biggest one was 2 inches. And it's like, wait a minute, right? Like
Mhm.
the amount of stabs, um, where they were, the amount of people, just like, wow, you would expect there to be something deeper than that. But then again, we haven't gone through the other two, but as we went into Kaylee and Maddie's, we'll be going through Ethan and Xana's on I think Saturday maybe. Um, that was like shocking to me. I was like, whoa, I expected
Mhm.
more, the majority of the wounds to be deep. I should say,
Yeah.
not just a couple
Yeah.
or the lack of one. I thought the majority um, would have been that deep. So, did that get you going down a rabbit hole?
It did. Yeah. Yeah. I found the markings really strange when we were going over the last documents,
Mm,
and I decided, yeah, I need to look this up because I wanted to understand what they went through and what I was reading. And So I looked up the K-bar and all the dimensions and started digging into the actual markings it leaves in wounds. And all of the strange markings, the curvatures and the hooks and the Y shaping, it's all indicative of a K-bar. That is very
Mm,
distinctive. And most forensic pathologists and coroners, they know, like they look at a knife wound and they can analyze what knife depending on the markings it leaves. So the
interesting.
K-bar is very, very distinctive.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder, obviously they found the sheath, but that's interesting because when we're talking about other weapons, right?
Hmm.
The fact that it shows the characteristics of the K bar, very distinctive characteristics of the K bar. So the fact that the K bar sheath is laying there, I think should be a hell of a lot more important to people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because there's we put out the Bat Shetty picture uh, late November, early December of 22 when we came across it across one of their social media profiles, not the victims, but one of their friends. And again, you think about the time limit. You think about how effective 4 people, loss of adrenaline at certain point. There's going to be resistance, if not after the first one, the second, the third, because more people are hearing things. Well, some. But when it comes to that, you just think something more brutal than a K bar, because you're thinking something big, something large. In the beginning, there was talk about a golf club,
Hmm.
bat machete. There was machetes. We had pictures showing back then of Xana getting ready to chop a pumpkin with a machete. There was pictures of machetes in the corners of the rooms on their social media platforms back then. There was a lot of brutal, brutal weapons. And so it was like, well, gosh, I mean, come on, come on. So I'm glad that you went down that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
because, to me, I'm sitting there looking at these and I'm going, whoa, there's maybe a third weapon. So all of those characteristics are characteristics of a K bar, not
Right.
necessarily 2 or 3 weapons. Also, um, with the K bar and the characteristics of it, then uh, that would make sense to the different types of what we thought were injuries. Because there was one where it was like, oh, they're just focusing one weapon on the head, and then when it gets to the chest, all of a sudden there's 2 different things showing up. But no, that's not the case. So um is there anything more you want to kind of go into, like um those characteristics, or kind of what you were researching about it, just
Yeah.
to kind of dig a little deeper into it? And if there's
Yeah.
anything you want me to show on screen, let me know too.
Yeah. I think it'd be good. The articles that describe the different shapes of the puncture wounds. I think it's
Okay.
important that people understand that this isn't just a normal knife. This is a military utility knife. So it's structured different, it's thicker, it's a stronger metal, and it's actually used for like opening ammo tins and cutting paracord. So it's extremely, extremely hefty. And it doesn't leave a clean cut like a steak knife would, it's gonna do more tearing and separating. So
See,
the
that's
damage you
interesting.
see, yeah, it's gonna be more jagged, which would probably explain like some of the serrated edges we were reading.
Because when you
On the
look at
release.
it, it looks smooth as hell.
Yeah, it's not meant to slice, it's meant to push apart the skin. So it does a lot more damage.
Oh, the way that the curvature is on the blade
Hmm.
and the way it's angled
Yeah.
makes it open up more. So yeah, that's interesting because again, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, man, that's going to be a nice clean. But again, this is like again, when it comes to the depth of the wounds though. I mean, when you're talking about the face, the chest, the legs, all of the different parts, and you're talking about the movements 1, 2, 3, 4, like they had to be so effective with that. How they had to have, where'd they get their training? Because if it was Koberger, he obviously didn't go to the military. ROTC, gym class army, is not, you know what I'm saying? That's not going to teach you to do
No,
that with a
actually,
K-bar.
you can look up the Marine Corps hand combat manual, and
Okay.
it will tell you how to use the K-bar.
Okay, but you
And
still
they
got to
just, yeah,
practice on something,
yeah.
right?
Well, knowing Koberger, you don't think he wasn't standing in his bathroom in front of his mirror
What?
practicing?
Like Jackie Chan, like
Yeah.
with
I
his
could
ear pods,
Yeah.
huh? His ear
Yeah.
pods
Taking
flexing,
selfies.
flexing, flexing. Um, no, you gotta. I mean, come on. We're talking 4 people. We're talking like minimal amount of time. I
I think
how
that's
how
why
can
they
somebody be that? Like, how can somebody be that good?
I
Their
don't
first
think they
time.
were. I tried
Their first time.
to think about that. I mean, you're talking about a frenzy to do 4 people, and that's extensive. Those documents, I mean, it's not a quick read. It's pretty
No.
gruesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of reason why you see a lot of like the slicing cuts. I think he was frenzied and in a hurry, and that knife, it's got a lot of depth potential, and it's got a special like hook on the tip of it that you can actually puncture bone. So I don't think that they were taking their time and putting a lot of force. I think it was more of just, I've got to hurry up and get these 4 done and out of here.
Yeah,
But
I
I
see
think
what
there
you
could have
mean.
been a lot more damage.
I see what you mean. You're looking at this close up. You can see the depth of how not only is it go like this, but it also has like a outer shape to it. And then it's got a quick change right there in the front tip.
Hmm.
So it is, I see what you mean when it's meant for opening up the flesh, is because the little side fins, I'm going to call them, of that blade actually do not only puncture but push open.
Hmm.
And that little change of direction right there, that's what is meant to go through bone, huh?
Yeah. There's it creates, when it hits bone, it creates what's called lipping, because it's got that little hook, and it will pull and shred bone up and out.
Hmm.
So it's it's a heck of a weapon
So
to
you
use.
think somebody standing in a mirror would have been like, okay, hold on a minute. So what you're saying is that in your opinion, You think it was sloppy based off of the wounds to Maddie and Kaylee so far?
Yeah. It was sloppy, it
Wow.
was all over the place. Um,
Wow.
there was a lot more of the slicing cuts than I expected to see, and I think it's almost like as you go through each one of them, you can almost see, like, in certain instances, there's more of it seems like a frenzy than on other ones. It's like maybe he had got the nervousness out, and by the second or third victim, he was just out of it, out of his mind.
Man.
Just you have
Because
to
of
be.
the slices. And
Yeah.
yeah, she is serious. She did some research. Shoot. I'm interested to hear more because, and maybe it's because, you know, I I just assumed that, I mean, the time limit, again, I'm going to repeat the same things. I'm like, damn, they were in there like a superhero out of a comic book.
Mhm.
That assassin that they should have hired when it comes to somebody getting away getting away with this potentially, if it wasn't for that sheath. But I'm very interested to hear because, see, again, when we were going through those documents, I'm like, man, I would have expected, again, the majority of the wounds to be the full blade, if not the majority of the blade. And based off of the not only the cuts tell you two things, is what you're saying.
Mhm.
The way that the cuts are on the bodies, it's telling you it's a K bar, and it's telling you that it was sloppy. Wow.
That's what it's telling me, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Like, I've never heard anybody say that, and I'm very intrigued to hear more. So you wanted me to share, let me see here, forensic science and pathology. Let me go back to the full screen here. So in forensic science and, oh my god, medical legal death investigation, analyzing injuries caused by heavy military blades like the K bar relies on the principles of wound ballistics and biomechanics. So that's exactly what you're talking about then.
Mhm.
The wound ballistics. I've never heard of that term before. Interesting. So it's basically what you're based on the cuts. That tells you it was a K bar. Forensic pathologists use a systematic protocol to document sharp force trauma to determine the manner, mechanism, and instrument of death. Macroscopic wound assessment. When examining a puncture wound inflicted by a K bar, a pathologist maps the injury using anatomical landmarks, orientation, and strict physical measurements. Length versus width. The pathologist measures the wound exactly as it rests and then gently reapproximates, squeezes the edges. A K-bar blade is approximately 1.1875 inches with 30.16 millimeters, shout out Rosie, wide because skin is elastic. The wound length may be smaller than the blade width if the skin was stretched tight. Oh, wow. Or larger if the knife was pulled out at an angle. The fishtail phenomenon, if the blade enters the body and the victim shifts, or the assailant pulls the weapon out at a different trajectory, the single edged blade creates a rocker or fishtail incision. The sharp edge cuts a clean line while the thick, unsharpened spine tears a ragged secondary trail, turning a linear puncture into a Y or a V shape. That's very interesting
Yeah, we saw a
because,
lot of those in the
right.
previous.
And remember, maybe that's why Mabbit was talking about tears.
Hmm.
Wow. This shit's hitting me hard here because it's making me think of stuff that I thought. You're just opening my eyes to some shit right here. Hilt impressed abrasions. If the knife is plunged to its maximum depth, the steel crossguard leaves an impact mark. Pathologists look for a matching pattern of patterned abrasions or intradermal hemorrhages flanking the wound entrance. This proves the blade was inserted to its full 7-inch length. Oh.
Now, do you remember
Wow.
hearing that there were some other strange wounds next to some of
Yeah.
the knife wounds?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
abrasions.
So
The
I'm
abrasions.
wondering, even though it didn't go all the way to its maximum depth, I'm just wondering how he utilized that guard, because that's also a metal guard. It's there to protect your hands and take some of the shock when you hit and go through bone.
Well, okay. What if he. Okay, so puts the knife in and twists? I don't know if that would create a new wound because it already cut where it entered. If you twist it, you're not making it longer. You're just, the wound is the same size unless you move it up or down. The wound is the same size if you twist it, and according to this, the skin's not fully stretched. So therefore, the wound is going to appear smaller because the skin isn't fully stretched. And therefore, maybe you wouldn't know if it was twisted unless there was abrasions left if it didn't fully enter. I don't
Right.
know.
That's very
That's a good
possible.
that's a good question. Interesting about the abrasions and also this up here about the tears. Like that right there is like, okay, now I see why Mabbit said that. Because when Mabbit said that in the very beginning, that's when I started going, wait a minute. That's got to be two different weapons. Because I didn't think a K-bar tore.
Right.
But
It's yeah,
now,
it's a pretty
right?
nasty weapon. I mean, it's for military survival. It's gonna have to hold up.
Mm-hmm.
But just for a civilian to use that on a young woman is just horrific.
Okay, but how does somebody standing in front of a mirror, how are they able to, like, they had to have practiced. I have to wonder, I don't know. I have to wonder, like, did they practice on animals? I mean, when I went up there, okay, I was told from many people that skinning fucking animals up there ain't nothing out of the ordinary.
I could see
Like,
him testing
it's
it
not.
out. Yeah.
It's not. I'm what, dude, because, man, it's just crazy. I just can't see somebody reading a manual and doing some kind of air karate with it, and they're able to just go in there and do this to 4 people and not have any kind of injuries themselves, like a dislocated shoulder, a broken toe, or
Scratch or
something.
something, yeah.
Yeah, like a swollen jaw. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
It's still crazy
Not
to me.
only that, but his car was super clean, and I'm sorry,
Right,
but
that
if you're
too.
gonna walk out of that house after doing all of that and get in your car, there's no amount of cleaning that's gonna get all of that up. That's a mess. So I don't that confuses me, and I've heard it talked about in the past that he supposedly sat down or cleaned up or changed, and I don't see that happening. For one, the time limit, there would have been a trail of
That's
DNA all the
why
way
I
to his car.
yeah, that's why I think he was just the brains and dropped somebody off, and whoever did commit the crime walked to
Yeah.
their car a block and a half down the road, which if you parked your car there, you wouldn't think anything about it being connected to 1122, because all you got to do is walk down some backyards in pitch black with a bunch of trees and you're good. I mean, you're fine. You make it
Mhm.
out the other side up the hill on Walenta Ridge, and then you could get there at the T section. I mean, it ain't that far, just a couple minutes. You're wearing all black. Ain't nobody gonna be like, they ain't gonna notice nothing. So that's the like when it comes to no DNA left in the car, that right there, like there's no way in hell they ripped that thing apart to try and find some kind of DNA of those victims. We all know it, and they didn't come back with anything. And so that's the craziest part is like there's nobody that can clean their car that damn good to
Yeah.
where it's one thing if you like wipe it down and clean it, but when the FBI, they're taking that thing apart, that thing had to be in little teeny pieces for them just to try and find any little tiniest amount to
Mhm.
connect one of the victims to the car. And the fact that they couldn't even find a speck, even in the parts that Koberger wouldn't have been able to even clean without taking it apart himself, which, let's be real, um, that's why I'll always think he was the the planner, the brainer, and it wasn't necessarily the person that I don't know. Why do you think there was no DNA in the car?
'Cause I don't think he did it.
You don't
I
think he
don't
did it?
I can see him even going in the house and watching and observing and see how it goes, and maybe for next time taking pointers and then leaving, so he's not gonna have anything on him, and maybe he was seen in that house, but I don't think he actually did it.
You think so? That's because I always pictured him being a pansy and not going in the house. I don't want to get my hands dirty, right?
Yeah.
Because he's a clean freak, right? What clean freak is gonna go get blood all over them and
Right.
people's fluids? And I mean, hell, you don't even like dust on your hands. And then
Yeah,
you want,
that's
you know.
another thing.
So
If you've got those OCD issues, imagine doing that and you're going to get messy. You would think that that would disrupt what he's
right,
doing, his
right,
mindset
like
would throw him
it
off.
would the anxiety would start.
Yeah.
I would think would start kicking in, and you're dirty of. I mean, fuck, if you're worried about dust, you're definitely worried about somebody else's blood, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty extreme from one to the other. Um,
Mhm.
and you're already extreme about the minimal. Um, I just picture him like if he was watching, to me, it would have been watching from the parking lot, sitting in the car. Because when I went out there and I sat in the spot that I thought the killer parked at, in the exact parking spot, I could literally see, and they wouldn't have been able to see me because of the trees, and the difference of light exposure from when you're looking from inside to outside, pitch black. It's harder to see through trees and stuff like that. But when you're looking from the darker exposure to a lighter exposure that you're trying to focus on, which would be a room or whatever, you're able to see it a lot better. So you have a lot better vision looking the way. And so while I'm sitting there in that parking lot, and there's like the perfect spots of openings in the trees where you can see, and maybe this person plucked those leaves that way. I don't know. But when I sat there, I could literally see Maddie's window. I could see the window on the second floor. I could see the stoop literally just a couple feet away from me. I could see the third floor deck literally just a few feet away from me. And the craziest thing to me is when I got out of the vehicle and I took 2 steps to my left, all of a sudden I could peek around those trees because there's an opening of those trees. I could peek around there, and literally 5 walking steps, I'm already getting up to the stoop at that sliding glass door on the second floor. It is so close. That parking lot is so close to the back of that house. And so I would see him, and this is why I think there isn't any DNA in the cars, because I think if he did sit back and watch which I think he did, he sat back in that parking lot and watched it go from room to room. And then literally I could see through the sliding glass door just right next to that tree while I'm still standing in the dirt right next to the parking lot. I could have watched what was going on in and out of that sliding glass door too, and not even had to have my DNA even touch that front door. Just to kind of you could still get that thrill of a killer, I suppose, if you plan it and you're not necessarily doing it, but you're actually watching the room, and you can hear things and you're watching movement going inside and up and around and screams and stuff. It's almost like that would probably be somebody that's a germaphobe's dream. If they want to be a killer, they can plan it. They can sit there and be there at the site that it's happening. They can see little bits and pieces of it, and it's almost like they are living and feeling it as if they did without getting their hands dirty at all, one bit. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy. I always, when we found out, because to me it was like, look, there has to be DNA in that car. There has to be. And
Yeah.
when it came out that there wasn't, I was just like, what? Okay, how in the hell did he do it then? Because there ain't nobody cleaning the car like that. So when it comes to microscopic and cartilage analysis, skin stretches and warps, but cartilage and bone do not. If a K-bar punctures the chest cavity, it frequently hits the sternum, ribs, or costal cartilage, preserving an exact negative impression of the blade's profile. Interesting. Tool mark impression, the 1095 steel grinding mark. Let me see. The machine ground edge leaves parallel microscopic ridges. When a cast is taken from a cartilage puncture, these ridges can be compared under a comparison microscope against a suspect weapon, test fired into a ballistic medium, forensic wound. Okay. Is this stuff that you want me to go through too? The autopsy protocol?
No, that you can
No?
skip that and go down. That's pretty
Okay.
much just saying how they write it out and document the findings, which we read on the autopsy reports.
Okay. Fabric and clothing defect analysis. Let me see here. Okay, so that's clothing. And this says fraying and severing synthetics and cotton garments can cut by a heavy razor sharp K-bar edge showed severed fibers under scanning electron microscopy. So really, under microscopic viewing, it has kind of like a gun.
Mm-hmm.
When you test fire it and compare the ballistics, it leaves little engravings, microscopic, that tell you what's what. And so this knife also does the same thing based on the features of what it's designed to do.
Yeah, so not only do you have the distinct markings that it leaves on the skin, but also on the bone. So you've got two different avenues of detecting what weapon with the K-bar.
And so now it kind of makes sense, when we were going through it, I'm like, because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up was like the 2, possibly 3, just based on the different types of injuries. And now that makes a lot of sense when it comes to what you were saying. It's basically like they already had probably a really good idea of what it was, and even if the sheath wasn't there, laying there next to Maddie, I still have questions about the sheath. The multiple different statements and where it was at. The fact that there wasn't blood on it that should have been on there if it was really there. So who knows it? I don't know. There's just so many questions. I wish there would have been a trial. Now, Joseph Scott Morgan he came on Law and Crime, and maybe he might even touch on this too, because he went on Law and Crime and wanted to discuss some myths about the autopsy. Some things that people are taking one way based off of wording or such, and how he kind of wanted to like fix some of the speculation, I guess, when it comes to these autopsy documents. Now, we'll be doing Xana and Ethan's coming up this weekend, and if you thought our show on Sunday with Maddie and Kaylee was a trigger warning, it's going to be a big trigger warning for that show too, especially when it comes to Xana and Ethan. Man, I mean, they all just so brutal, so brutal, but it really tells you kind of what was going on in there. Let me see. I want to see if there's anything, because really a lot of this stuff that I had questions about, you kind of I just need to cross out a bunch of these because your little rabbit hole like answered a lot of it, for real. Yeah. Yeah, the depths, the different types. Yeah, well, we're good there. So is there any other things that you kind of had questions about, like with the autopsies that we did go through? Because really, a lot of the stuff I had was, the stuff that just doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, a lot of questions I had just revolved around the strange markings we were finding with the wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. What seemed like multiple, but no, it's just not. It's not multiple. It's characteristics of the K-bar. Definitely have to let Rosie know and have her check out this episode too. By the way, I do want to say Rosie and Jennifer are going to be, let me see here. So you guys are covering the Steve Scheriller interview with Chris Cuomo tomorrow, and then you guys are going to be doing. See, I was surprised. You guys are going to be doing an Anna Kepner episode on Thursday. New docs and DNA truths exposed. So I know there's a lot of conversation about the DNA stuff, the secondary DNA. I think we talked a little bit about it in one of the weekend shows. So I guess it's not what everybody's thinking. So that's very interesting that you guys are going to bring that to us Thursday. So tomorrow at 9:30 Central, they're going to be covering. You guys ain't going to want to miss that. That's a crazy interview.
I'm looking forward to seeing it a second time.
Oh, right. And then watching Rosie's reaction.
That's going to be the funniest part.
Yeah, because we made sure don't watch it, don't spoil it, just just wait. Oh, it's gonna be wild. And then you guys are talking about the new docs and the DNA truths on Anna Kepner. That's a sad one too.
It really is.
Very unfortunate. I still don't understand why that dude ain't sitting in a jail cell. I don't know. You do that kind of crime, I don't know. It just don't make sense to me. It really don't.
Have you ever seen that before? Because I haven't.
What's that?
Where they keep someone out of jail for
No.
committing a crime like that? Usually,
No.
yeah, they sit until their trial.
Yeah. I mean, and the same thing happened with who was found guilty today for murder? Carmelo Anthony. It's the same kind of thing, dude. But he paid a bail, I think, though, right? Did he pay a bail?
Yeah, he got out.
I don't think nobody paid a bail for Anna Kepner's killer, did they? They just didn't.
I don't remember hearing anything about
I'm not sure. I haven't really followed it too much. I know Rosie's done some shows on it, very good ones. Even a PowerPoint on one of them. I was like, geez, she works so hard. But yeah, I don't know. I've always heard that he wasn't in, and then a few days ago, or maybe a week ago or something, I heard that he doesn't have to go in to jail and he can continue to live at his uncle's. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, like the dude killed somebody, stuffed him, and then tried to act like he didn't even know what. I don't remember. I don't remember. Remember in the very beginning? I don't remember what happened. I have no idea. Like, and then you get to sit free. I mean, it's one thing to kill somebody, but to somebody and you don't even go to jail? I don't care how old you are, man.
Yeah, but it's not just somebody. That was his stepsister, a family member. And there's other female family members there that are minors that, in my mind, any judge with any common sense would say, if you can do this to one sister, who's to say you're not going to get upset and do it to another sister?
Or he didn't already. Yeah. I mean, that's some sick shit that you did, and you do some shit like that. I wouldn't put it past you to. I mean, you're like that. Like that's a crime on a, like, you got to be a sick motherfucker to do some shit like that.
Yeah.
It just, and I'm sorry, there ain't no help for that. It's built in your damn soul and your damn DNA. If you get there where you like, no, it's just like a pedo. There ain't no help for your ass. If you always like apples and somebody tells you that you have to like oranges from now on, you ain't gonna start fucking liking oranges. You're gonna continue to like apples, and that's just how it is. There is no change in that. That's just my opinion. But yeah, sick. I just never understood. I don't know. Maybe you guys can talk about it on the show and come up with some kind of idea, because again, I've never heard of it happening. I'm shocked that it's happening. The fact that R is involved with the murder, like, that should be 2 times the reason that it should be happening. So yeah, a lot of questions with that one. All right, so we'll check out this episode here. This is Joseph Scott Morgan on Law and Crime. I have it at 1.25 just to have it sped up a little bit. And then we'll take some live calls after that as well. If anybody's interested, just let us know in chat and we'll make sure to take that. So this is Crime Fix with Anjanette Levy. We love Anjanette Levy, even though sometimes she's a little off the deep end. But Joseph Scott Morgan is like one of my most favorite people to listen to when it comes to true crime. Period. Always has been from the very beginning. And every time this dude, it's just nothing but knowledge, and you can just soak it up. And we're going to listen to some stuff about these documents. Yes, just because you buy something on Amazon doesn't mean it's great value like Walmart. Like, it's, even if you buy something on Amazon, it's real. You pay extra for it. Now, if you want the knockoff, then you buy that Chinese shit, you know? All right, that takes like a month to get here, and it doesn't always show up like it's supposed to. Right?
It's always smaller and a different color.
Right. Yeah, it's like, who ordered this? Maybe it's the neighbors, right? Is this the neighbors? Yeah, that's where you buy the knockoff shit.
There is no way that anyone will ever fully appreciate, and I hope no one ever does, what went on in that house that night relative to the brutality that was exacted on these kids.
Yeah. Autopsy reports just released reveal the horror that took place inside the house on King Road and what the 4 victims, Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, endured. We go through the reports and what they tell us about claims that more than one killer was involved. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. You know, it's been nearly a year since Bryan Kohberger walked into a courtroom in Boise, Idaho, raised his right hand, and swore to tell the truth. It was July 2nd, 2025, and after maintaining his innocence for nearly 3 years and claiming early on that he looked forward to being exonerated.
Okay, I apologize. I was going to try and do this at 1.25, and I just can't because she is speaking way too damn fast. So I got to slow this back down to 1.0. So we're going to, I mean, just, I'm like, holy hell, I'm trying to keep up here. No, and it's only at 1.25. All right. One regular speed here.
Reports and what they tell us about claims
so much better
that more than one killer was involved. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. You know, it's been nearly a year since Bryan Kohberger walked into a courtroom in Boise, Idaho, raised his right hand, and swore to tell the truth. It was July 2nd, 2025, and after maintaining his innocence for nearly 3 years and claiming early on that he looked forward to being exonerated, Kohberger admitted to murdering Maddie Mogen, Keely Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. We've talked about this case more times than I can count here on Crime Fix and Law and Crime. Kohberger said he did it. He agreed with the statement of facts read by Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson. Kohberger did not equivocate. He did not waver. Kohberger bought a K-bar knife sheath and sharpener earlier in 2022 and drove across the country with it. And on November 13th, 2022, he agreed that he broke into the house on King Road and stabbed the 4 college students to death. Now,
Because he pled guilty to it. So that's why she's saying that. I do want to ask you, Jennifer, why do you think he took the plea?
I think they found evidence of his involvement behind the scenes, and there was no getting out of it. And maybe he didn't want that.
At the
No.
last minute? Because
Yeah.
remember, from what Turvey said, like they were discovering stuff right before the trial, or right before the plea deal. So it was
Whatever
something.
is, yeah, it's in there.
What do you think it would have been? What do you think it would have been if that?
That he was there. He may not have done it, but he was there.
But what would they?
What would they have?
Yeah, what would they have? Because there was no direct connection. That when
if
it
he
comes
was
to
in
cell
there-
phone ping, when it comes to what you think, one of them had a video or something like that would have been. What could they have come across? Well, oh, okay. Wait a minute. So are you thinking that they had, because they sent all the docs all out of order, and Ann Taylor admitted they didn't have time, they weren't prepared right before the plea? She even admitted to the courts that she was not prepared for trial still. Do you think that the prosecution had the wild card up their sleeve and wasn't letting it be known, and they were going to use that in trial to slam him, and all of a sudden the defense found something and was like, oh shit, they found the wild card that the prosecution was keeping, that they knew if we send them all these documents, which typically they will, prosecutions ain't going to organize shit for them, they're going to make them do the work. But because they hadn't came across it yet, they're like, oh man, this is going to be great when we go to trial, because they ain't even going to see this coming.
Yeah. I think whatever that was damning enough that there was no getting out of it if it came out.
Man, I just wonder what it could have been.
Yeah.
I
It really
just
makes you wonder. But like I said, I really believe that he may have even been in the house just following and observing, and that they could have found some DNA or a footprint.
Well, that would
Something.
Well, yeah, again, they hadn't looked through all the documents, so they could have, whatever we can think of could be possible, because they didn't go through all the documents, and it could be sitting in the discovery, just not even looked at.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that, because I'm like, I wonder what she thinks about why he took the plea. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nearly a year after Koberger's guilty plea and sentencing, we're getting a look at the autopsy reports for Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana. They paint a horrific picture of what the 4 students endured. It's beyond the pale. The chief medical examiner for Spokane County, Dr. Veena Singh, performed the autopsies on all 4 students, and she was prepared to testify as an expert for the prosecution. Prosecutors wrote in an expert disclosure, "It is expected Dr. Singh will testify that Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Madison Mogan endured a high degree of pain and or suffering prior to their deaths as a result of the injuries inflicted. It is expected Dr. Singh will testify Ethan Chapin also experienced a high degree of pain and or suffering prior to his death as a result of the injuries inflicted."
Huh. See, we haven't gotten to Xana and Ethan yet, but according to her testimony that she was expected to give, Ethan Chapin received a lesser degree of injuries inflicted compared to the others.
Now, you have to remind me, did they ever find out the order they were assaulted in?
Well,
It was
they came up with their order.
okay. That might explain why maybe he was last and all that adrenaline.
But
And
isn't that crazy though? You would think the last person would have the most, because that you would think the last person would give the most fight. They would have the most notice. And then it being Ethan, the most fight too. But really he got a lesser degree of injuries inflicted. That's interesting to me.
yeah,
I thought
maybe
it would.
could have been interrupted and he had to flee. Maybe he
But
wasn't done.
and then also the blood loss on the outside of the building. It could have been real nice and quick.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was. But damn, that much advanced notice, and your girlfriend's even running upstairs and running down.
Well, it'd be
Crazy.
interesting to read his toxicology report. Maybe that might explain some of it.
Yeah. I
If
can't
you're
wait to
heavily
do that show.
sedated with alcohol or something, I mean, I know people who can sleep through tornadoes and never hear a sound.
I'm one of them.
I'm the one sitting
Oh,
by
there
the
was
basement door just waiting.
there was tornadoes last night. Oh shit! Good thing we're still here.
But to a lesser degree than the other decedents. And Dr. Singh was prepared to testify that the injuries inflicted upon all 4 victims were consistent with a K-bar knife, the same type of knife owned by Brian Kohberger. Prosecutors wrote, Dr. Singh will provide her opinion that Gonsalves's wounds are consistent with a single-edged and or double-edged knife being the source of the wounds. Dr. Singh will provide her opinion that the use of a K-bar full-size U.S. Marine Corps fighting knife is consistent with the injuries observed. Dr. Singh made other findings regarding specific injuries that she found on Ethan Chapin. In addition, Dr. Singh will provide testimony regarding evidence that the knife used on Chapin showed indications that there was a blade guard. Dr. Singh will provide her opinion that Chapin's wounds are consistent with a single-edged knife as the source of the wounds. Dr. Singh will provide her opinions that the use of a K-bar full-size U.S. Marine Corps fighting knife is consistent with the injuries observed.
So that explains the massive amount of blood loss. Because on Ethan, she was going to testify that it showed indications that there was a blade guard. And that means deep wounds.
Yes.
Very, very, very deep wounds.
Yep.
Wow.
And there's much, much more to these reports, including information about the possibility that 2 knives were used. So really wanted to get somebody with some great expertise to break down these autopsy reports, the expert findings, and I have no one better to do that than Joseph Scott Morgan. He is a forensic death investigator, also the host of the hit podcast Body Bags. Check it out. Joseph, thanks so much for coming on. I want your opinion, first of all, about these autopsy reports. We didn't think we'd ever see these. They're sealed in the state of Washington. That's Spokane County conducted the autopsies. That's who Moscow contracts with. What is your opinion overall about the autopsy reports?
Very thorough. Dr. Singh, when I'm reading over these right now, and hadn't this gone on for a long time, and we, it's like you said, Anjanette, we didn't think that we would ever see these. I thought that maybe someday, but in this document dump, I was shocked, when you reached out to me that we actually had them. But Dr. Singh has done a wonderful job, I think, in her assessment, our postmortem assessment of the remains there at her facility. And this is the sign of a good autopsy report. If a common person can sit down and read through it and get an idea as to the nature of the injuries, the status of the individual, both in antemortem, prior to death, and postmortem, and laid out in such a way, because, you know, these reports, when you look at autopsy reports, these are not created for fellow physicians. They're created as an objective scientific report that has forensic value, that if you go into court, when you're trying to explain this to a jury, and the jury doesn't have the same education as the pathologist, which is very specific, they can understand it. And, you know, for me, reading over this, I think that Dr. Singh would have been formidable, okay, on the stand. She's been very, very thorough here. She's laid out these injuries in a way that we can truly understand.
Since Brian Koberger.
Yeah, I want to pause it there real quick too. I have to say, you know, because I've went through a lot of autopsy reports, medical examiner reports, and that's why when we went through that show on Sunday and the next one coming up on Saturday, I sat back and I was like, wow, it's almost like, not that I'm reading the injuries in order, but I'm actually like the murder is being revealed to my mind. Like I'm sitting there reading this report and it's like, whoa, I'm actually seeing parts of the murders that I never saw in my mind before because of that report. It was a hell of a report that we've gone through so far, and it's a lot more descriptive than I've seen in most other autopsy reports too.
Yeah, she really did a good job with it.
Yeah, I have to double down on what he's saying, because it really does. It like, I'm just so, my mind is still blown that Maddie moved like she did and was awake, and you know, just like what Dr. Singh said, you know, these victims experienced a tremendous amount of pain and suffering before they passed on. Which, again, you know, I was talking to somebody today and they were talking about their friend's dad and how their friend's dad was stabbed 17 times. But because 911 was able to be called and dispatched out so quickly, he still is alive to this day. Can you imagine if a 911, because we all thought this was quick. This was quick. Quick. No. These victims laid there suffering while their friends were texting. So messed up, man. So messed up. I just, when I see them in the photos with the victims, I just can't. It's like, how could you do this? How could you not call for your friend, you know?
Yeah.
Sad. Has pleaded guilty. I mean, he walked into court and said, yeah, I'm guilty. The judge straight up asked him, are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? And he said, yes. He said he did it. And since that happened, you know, in the last many months, several weeks, people have been coming out of the woodwork. A defense expert, Dr. Turvey, said, you know, it had to be 2 killers and 2 weapons and, you know, 2 knives, essentially. I interviewed Chris Whitcomb. He wrote a book and he was citing all this stuff, all these documents and things like that, and worked with Dr. Turvey on this book. And they're convinced that Brian Koberger didn't do this. But I want to read to you something that Dr. Singh, apparently one of her opinions that she was going to testify to had this case gone to trial. And I see where this 2 weapons, 2 killers thing is coming from now. And we're going to pull this up on the screen. Dr. Singh will provide her opinion that Kernodle's wounds are consistent with a single-edged and or double-edged knife being the source of the wounds. In addition, the handle and or tip of the knife could account for the appearance of serration on some of Kernodle's face wounds. Dr. Singh will opine that this serration could be caused by Kernodle fighting and or holding / touching the knife and or hand that is holding the knife causing the injury. Dr. Singh will provide her opinions that the use of a K-bar full-size U.S. Marine Corps fighting knife is consistent with the injuries observed. That doesn't say that there were necessarily 2 knives used or 2 killers or 2 weapons.
No, it doesn't. And for those of us that have worked in the medical legal field for our entire lives, we see injuries, and we, particularly in a dynamic event like this, we understand that these things don't occur in a vacuum. Okay. You've got people that are reactive. You got individuals that are fighting back. You've got a perpetrator that is in the midst of a massacre. This is not something clinical like surgery. All right. So let's disabuse ourselves of this idea that, you think that you can make an assessment and arrive at a conclusion that definitively said that there are 2 perpetrators or multiple weapons, because that's not the reality. Now, it is the defense's job. Okay. It is the defense's job to raise reasonable doubt, right? I mean, that's how our system works. But I think that when you begin to consider the nature of this knife that we're talking about, this weapon, this K-bar, this is a weapon of war, okay? And it has the surfaces on this weapon they're not static. In a sense, they are static, but what I'm saying is you've got a single edge. The blade kind of has a curve to the tip. You've got a blood groove in it. You've got a blunt side to it. Then you've got a hand guard. You've also got a textured handle that is wrapped with grooves in it. Oh, and by the way, if you flip this knife on its end, the butt end of it can actually be used as a hammer. I'd urge anybody, to take a look at this thing and see that it has multiple utility. That's why it's a military utility knife, because
especially if it's bloody, that blood then goes in those cracks and allows you to keep grip of the handle too. But yeah, he made a good point. And that's why, when it comes to Kaylee's face, that's why I've said it was the butt of that K-bar, because that is perfect for doing that kind of injury. And that right there, when you're crushing teeth and bone, that is making noise as well. I don't know how in the hell Dylan didn't hear this shit, man. It really upsets me. But look at the bottom of that. It is definitely... here's a closer picture. It is. It's just like a hammer.
I think it was very calculated that that weapon was chosen, considering what it can do to a person.
Mm-hmm.
You can hammer them, you can slice, puncture, anything. So someone thought about it. Someone thought about what they were going to do and what was going to hold up to the task. Otherwise, why not conceal something smaller that you can maneuver around quicker and better?
Mm-hmm. And not even have a sheath even in some of them.
Yeah, but it doesn't look that big on camera, but when you're actually holding one, it's a pretty long knife. It really is. And something that big, to be able to twist it and move it and, maybe dodge if someone is trying to block, and it's not that easy. So it only has one main purpose, and that was damage.
Yeah. I mean, just think about it. If you have your hand around there, you'll have a little room above and a little room below. You can basically put 3 of your hands, possibly 3.5, going up. That's how big this knife is. So when people are looking at it, a lot of the times they think it's this little mini knife, and it's not.
No,
It's
I mean, look at from your elbow to your wrist, it almost fits
yeah,
in that space.
yeah,
So to be able to maneuver that around quickly, it's
yeah,
not that easy.
yeah, yeah. Great points.
The Marines, when the Marines developed this knife right before World War II, I think that it went into service, they knew that our guys that were fighting are going to need something that they can crack boxes open with, all right? That they can pry things loose, they can actually chop things with it. If they're trying to create a fighting position, oh, and by the way, they can actually do trench warfare with this thing. So if just using the handle alone, if you're gripping the knife, you can actually punch with it like this. You can flip it over, you can hammer with it, you flip it over again, you can stab with it, you can slice with it, you can parry. If you
Yeah, like especially if you're holding it and you punch, it's almost like reverse brass knuckles.
Hmm.
That kind of effect. It's a solid hit, solid as hell. When you have anything inside your hand, it could be a freaking lighter. When you have something inside your hand and you go to throw, that's a solid freaking hit, man. I can't imagine having a K-bar handle and try. I never even thought about that. Having the K-bar in your hand and then punching somebody, that's a solid freaking hit, man. That is solid. Crazy.
got an oncoming, so, and you think about what that scene probably looked like inside of that house, bloodbath to say the very least. None of this occurred in a vacuum. So if you're going to try to draw a conclusion, that there's more than one weapon involved. I think you've got some distance to go in order to prove that.
And one weapon, or one killer can use more than one weapon. I mean, it could have been a fist, even if it is the knife being used as a hammer, as a punching device. You still can do other things.
Yeah, that's possible. The individual could have brought another weapon with them, but their conclusion is, they're arriving at this conclusion. We go back to the sheath, right? The sheath is found there in the bedroom, and of course that identifier is going to bring that back to the K-bar, right? And granted, don't have the knife. You have to understand that. I don't know that we will ever have the knife, or that they will ever have the knife, okay? But the question that you have to ask is it possible for a knife such as a K-bar knife that fits this sheath, all right? Is it possible for it to have been utilized in order to generate all of these insults to all four of these victims? And so, again, I go back to the word dynamic. None of these kids necessarily stay put, okay, while this happens. They've got a survival instinct that kicks in. They're blocking, okay, they're reacting to pain. Every single time a knife plunges into a specific area of the body, and unless the individual is dead, you're gonna have a pain center that fires. So they're going to twist, they're going to turn, they're going to gesticulate in any number of planes along the way. So they're being reactive in that sense. So it's not just.
Damn, and that's crazy to think about too. Every time they're getting a wound, something else I didn't even think about, that reactive fire that just automatically happens with your body. Oh my lord, it gets more brutal the more as these autopsy docs are being discussed, man. This is I wanted to pause it right here too, because I wanted to show everybody. So, how I was mentioning earlier, where there was an opening of the trees just a couple spots to the left, and then I could see inside, literally be 5 steps from that stoop as I go in. This right here is the perfect picture to show you. Right here, you have here's the tree on the left, and then the trees on the right. This is that opening I was talking about, and literally, look, I wasn't shitting you. Like, that's how close you are. You got this piece of plywood up here. That's Maddie's room. Right there. And then really, you can take a couple steps more to the left, be hidden from this tree, and you have an even better view going in Kaylee's room and that sliding glass door in the kitchen. But just think about it. Pitch black. There's no street lights back there either. Just like I showed you guys in the video, and maybe I'll go show some at the end of the show, of 1122 King Road. With that darkness, and the parking lot is completely dark. So a completely dark parking lot, completely dark obstruction from the trees, and yet somebody could literally just sit out there for nights on end and watch. And this was the craziest thing to me, again, when I went out there and did my work for the week, that I was there. Because of how long I had to travel to go stay at the hotel. Because I couldn't just go back to the, oh shoot, I forgot to do this today. Okay, let me go. I couldn't do that. So I had to, every day I had a list of things I needed to accomplish. And then also I would sit in that parking lot and do all my work on the computer, the papers, all this stuff. I would sit in there and do my work. And once I knew that I was done doing my work for the day of everything that I needed to accomplish, only then I would take the drive back to go stay at the hotel. And the craziest thing was that a parking lot tucked in a corner, no street lights shining down on that parking lot, a vehicle that obviously wasn't from there, somebody that obviously wasn't from there, and I sat there. Remind you, it got dark at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon during the middle of November. I would be sitting out there for hours each night. Sometimes I was there at 3 in the morning. But I would be sitting out there all night in my vehicle, working on my laptop, working with my papers, and not one person ever stopped, looked, or even questioned me being there. And that's the craziest thing. Somebody could have literally, and again, a vehicle that was never there and a person that was never there for a week, and not one time did anybody side-eye me or anything. And that was shocking to me, because I'm like, holy hell. That, during the year anniversary, okay, I might add, that told me right there, anybody that wanted to pick this house, whoever was living in it, could have literally gotten everything that they asked for just in this little spot. That's why people say, or some people say, that it was a perfect house, because it really was. And this right here, I showed it with my footage at night, how when there's no lights on, then all of a sudden you see a car locking their door and the little tail lights light up real quick, and you're like, oh shit, there's King Road right down there. Oh wow. And then you basically, you're on such an elevation, you're looking down, and so not only you have the perfect view to see what's going on inside this house, but you have the perfect view of any vehicle that could be coming into this part of the neighborhood before they even turn on King Road. Like, you have the whole visual of everything at your footsteps right here in this spot. Very creepy. What's up, Nina? How are you doing? Yeah, the lot. It's all so scrunched. That's the biggest thing about it. The best thing I can tell people is you feel claustrophobic. That's how scrunched everything is. You're just like, ugh. Even when you're trying to drive down the road, the whole time I was there, because the roads were so skinny and the parking was so bad, like there's only room for one vehicle to go down the road, and every like 3 seconds I'm sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do if a car comes this way? Okay, what am I going to do if because really you had to really think about that as you're navigating these streets. It is so scrunched in. They definitely maximize their money when it out of the space that's available for these students. But yeah, it's crazy how close it is. And the thing is they might not have ever even seen anybody. What's up, Scully? They did, we did hear things before about how they said that they saw people, creeping and standing back there and watching them and stuff like that. Wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you got a front row seat. It's pretty crazy.
It's like you have an individual that is just kind of there. They're not positioned like a paper target somewhere where you're driving a knife into them and they don't react. That's
and
absurd.
Of course, Xana, we know she was awake and fighting. We know that. And she, her autopsy report, or at least the summary of it, shows that she had 23 wounds to her scalp, face, and neck, 7 to her chest and abdomen, incised and puncture wounds to the back. I mean, lower extremities everywhere.
All
I mean,
over.
this poor girl suffered so greatly trying to save her own life. I do want to move on now to Kaylee, because a lot of people have made a lot about Kaylee's injuries and the severity of her injuries. She was in bed next to Maddie. They were best friends. Maddie, of course, suffered greatly as well. But Kaylee had some injuries that people have pointed to. And one of those being Dr. Singh was going to testify that there was an unknown object placed over her mouth. She apparently also had a fixed retainer in her mouth at the time that she was sleeping, and her teeth were broken. And Kaylee, it says, suffered, scrapes on the nose and cheeks, bruising around the eyes, just awful stuff. And she also had that unknown object placed against her mouth, is what the doctor said. What could you theorize that could have been?
Good question. Yes, good question.
I've held for some time that it could have very well have been the handle of the knife, or the perpetrator's gripping of the knife as it's being placed in with enough force like this to thrust against and hold her in place with a knife, for at least with enough force in order to generate this kind of insult. And the injury is evidence that that you've got this reactive event going on. It creates a pattern there that apparently is in the antemortem states, not a postmortem insult that she sustained. And then you've got this devastation to her mouth.
So I want to pause that real quick, because when it's discussing the mouth, all I can do is I can keep going back to that video. What did you tell Adam? And they made her shut up too. I wonder what was told to Adam. Because why do you think they would specifically go after her mouth like that? You know, because it's not like Dylan said, Kaylee was screaming at the top of her lungs. No, she didn't say that. It's not like Kaylee was making a bunch of noise either, according to Dylan. So why would there be so much focus on Kaylee's mouth? Well, when you think about a snitch, wouldn't that be an appropriate injury? They open their mouth, so you're going to shut it. It's just, just thinking about this mouth stuff, the unidentified object and all that, and the damage done to the mouth, too.
Yeah, that one was really disturbing to read about. And it's not that easy, especially if you've got a fixed retainer. So there's metal that's bracing those teeth, and you're still able to break them.
Right. Yeah, it's got like a guardrail, so to speak. So there's extra support. So this person had to go extra for the damage. Why the mouth? I just keep thinking of you open it and somebody's shutting it kind of injury. Rage getting back at you. Somebody's pissed.
Where we've got loosened teeth, I think we've got fractures of the facial bones. And it's really, really indicative of how vicious this attack was. Now, was that, there are any number, I guess, behaviorists could look at this and say, well, maybe she was the target. And that's about as close as you're going to get. You're going to say, well, maybe she was the target. I have no idea if she was the target. I have no idea who was, in fact, the target in that house. I think a lot of that stuff is speculative. But all you can do is return back to the injuries that were sustained in a brutal attack. We talked about Xana, being reactive. Kaylee was, essentially pinned in this location, and Lord only knows why the perpetrator, decided to unleash hell on her specifically. But it was a destructive event. He's just absolutely wrecking her face with whatever instrument this is. I still hold to the fact that it's a K-bar, and it's being used. It's being used it is being used as a sharp force weapon, but it's also being used as a blunting weapon or a blunt force weapon, just over and over and over again, because it takes a tremendous amount of force and kind of holding an individual, pinning them in a static position like this, so that you can have this structural disruption that was going on with her.
Wow.
Is it possible that Kaylee awoke during the attack on Maddie, since Maddie was closer to the outside of the bed?
Well, duh.
And then that's something happened where she tried to
what kind of
fight
question is
back or
that?
something, and that's why we see the asphyxiation. Maybe she was stabbed in the chest first, and then she's asphyxiating because she's then somebody's trying to hold something against her mouth. Is
Look
that
at
a
his
possibility?
That's the face I'm giving too. I'm like, what? Could it be? Of course it could be possible. And could it be possible that I could guarantee it she woke up because Maddie was getting attacked? What do you I don't. His face says it all. Thank you, Joseph Scott Morgan. Huh?
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah,
if I
it's
remember correctly, too, they talked about.
Yeah, he's like, huh?
Dr. Singh had mentioned that there was dried foam that you see many times with
Right.
If you think about like the head of a beer, okay, you have if you're in kind of respiratory distress, you'll produce this exudate that comes out like that. We see it, with many asphyxial related deaths like that. And some of that can go to, this kind of compression where you're holding an individual down. You're blocking their ability for their chest to rise and fall, particularly if weight is being placed on it. You're also, maybe holding her in place with an anchor hand, like a C clamp around the throat, like this, squeezing the throat for a period of time. Maybe while attack was raging on another area of the body, you're covering the mouth. There's any number of ways the respiratory system can be compromised. And then not to mention, you're introducing a blade into the body as well. So the body is going to be reactive in that way. I think there's a possibility she may have awakened.
Maddie also suffered many stab wounds, particularly to her face. I mean, this is so disgusting, so sick. Poor Maddie. And she was very intoxicated. She had a high BAC, 0.282. And, it was also the doctor's opinion that her injuries were consistent with the K-bar knife. And it sounded like there was going to be some opinion that she didn't believe that Maddie had the ability to fight back. We had read that in some other documents.
Yeah. Well, when you think about Maddie's size, she's rather diminutive, right? And then you think about her BA level. Yeah, I could see why Dr. Singh would potentially arrive at that conclusion. Because Maddie would have been, it's not really like a dreamlike state, but she, at that point when your BA is that high and you've got someone attacking you, the only thing that could kick in so that you could be further reactive would be an adrenaline rush. Well, if you don't have this awareness of it, she may have just laid there. We don't know. Lord only knows, right? We have no idea. But yeah, I think that she could have been certainly, as helpless as a kitten.
It's just awful. Poor all these kids, but Maddie, just all of them. It's just awful. Finally, Ethan, it seemed like he suffered fewer stab wounds. Dr. Singh was going to testify that Maddie, Xana, and Kaylee suffered greatly and suffered great pain before they died. Ethan as well, but not to the extent that the others did. Dr. Singh found that he had 4 stab wounds to the face and neck, a stab wound to the upper chest, 6 incised wounds of the upper extremities, and then 6 stab and incised wounds of the lower extremities. And then there was associated injuries, including perforations of the jugular vein, subclavian vein, and subclavian artery. I mean, those injuries alone.
I wonder if this person specifically went after those arteries, because they keep getting repeated over and over and over and over. Mm-hmm. Like they specifically went for those injuries to make sure that they didn't survive, because you're not surviving when those arteries and veins are getting cut. That's a massive amount of blood loss. I'm surprised we just didn't see more blood with these veins being injured, because that's quick. That's quick.
And if the heart is still beating when those arteries are cut, blood tends to, I don't mean to be graphic, but it does tend to
squirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Charlie Kirk. If anybody saw that video, his vein, and you saw it, just instant.
Yeah.
And it goes with the heartbeat.
Yeah, it just pumps out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes with the heartbeat. And it's massive. It's like a cup of blood a beat. That's how much is coming out.
And they're also very hard to stop the bleeding on an artery,
Yeah.
a large
Yeah.
artery like that.
Yeah.
Lots of
Because
pressure.
even if you cover that up, it's still, you might be lucky if you can get it somewhat close, but with that amount of pressure, if there's an opening with that amount of pressure to try and just push it back, is that pressure is going to make that vein move and change sizes. It's it's just as we're going through this, and we went through the other ones, I'm just seeing the same veins and arteries, and I'm just like, damn, it's no matter what other injuries you see around the body, it's these specific veins and arteries.
Yeah, they're easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that, but
Yeah,
they are easy access.
legs, neck, arm, yeah.
Jugular and subclavian artery. I mean, that would be instantly fatal, wouldn't it?
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we know that just to give folks kind of a point of reference, we know that the Courtney Clinty case is kind of ramping up right now. And one of the issues in that particular case is that Toby, the victim, his subclave has been nicked, and he's a very big man, right? And that's a single injury, and he just kind of faded. So if you've got multiple insults to these structures along here, and so that folks know that with subclave in particular, when we're talking about subclavicular, which means beneath the clavicle, our collarbone, if you can feel it right here, this major vessel runs through here for years and years. That's where medical professionals would set up what was referred to as a central line, so that you could have, like a port would be right here, so that you could eject meds immediately. They've gotten away from that now to a great degree, but this would get it directly into the system. Why is that? Because it's a major vessel. And so when this is clipped, and then you've also got the jugular vein that is clipped as well, those structures in and of themselves will make somebody fade very, very quickly.
Awful. They were butchered. There's no other way to describe this. I mean, they were just massacred. And it's shocking to me in some ways that they went for the plea deal, that the state were willing to do this. But I can see it on both sides. I can see why the Gonsalveses are still so upset and wanted the death penalty in this case after reading these autopsy reports.
Yeah, there's no measure that you can really take on behalf of the families. And yeah, I understand, because, even from my perspective, I read a lot of autopsy reports, have read them over the years, and even by my standards, this is the brutality involved in this case, exceeds some of my understanding, because it's like you look at it as it's written down, but there is no way that anyone will ever fully appreciate, and I hope no one ever does, what went on in that house that night relative to the brutality that was exacted on these kids. You can't really take the measure of it. I mean, obviously, Dr. Singh has done a lovely job here, if you can use that term. Very professional, probably is a more appropriate term, ordered. She was able to sit back in her environment and kind of, contemplate this and think about it, and kept it in very succinct order. That's why I think that she would have been one hell of a witness to put on the stand. And I can understand why families don't feel as though that justice was served here.
Yeah, it's just, it's like no appeals, at least you have some sort of resolution here. There was no risk. You have a guilty plea, but I get it.
No allocution at all, which I think is probably, from my perspective of covering a lot of cases, is probably the most dissatisfying part. And my satisfaction doesn't really matter, but I'm just, in very broad strokes, I always go back to BTK. BTK was compelled to allocute in court, and he did. If you've never seen that, it's one of the most chilling things you can watch, where he goes case by case. And in this case, I think that allocution was certainly warranted. I don't understand why it couldn't be leveraged that way, unless they're thinking about returning to something in the future. I have no idea what that might be. But
I think a proffer, I've been saying since the beginning, a proffer require him to sit down with investigators and answer some questions before you're willing to take it off take the death penalty off the table. Yeah. I know why the families still want answers. I totally get it. Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you so much.
Yeah, great episode. Great episode. I think he cleared up a lot of it too, like especially with the multiple weapons. He's like, no, you can tell it's a K-bar. Not really any discussion about the multiple weapons. I can see why, because you look at those injuries and it does it. Even to me, I was like, whoa, so there might even be a third. And no, it's just the characteristics of the K-bar. Pretty
I was pretty convinced there was different weapons until I looked into that. And that's just crazy that you've got one weapon that leaves so many confusing marks on the body.
Sharp and what was the other term? Edge or whatever. I don't know. It's just
it's really hard when you learn about the weapons used and then you break down the autopsy reports and get an actual image in your head of what actually happened to the body, and then what do those injuries cause the body's reaction, because there's also going to be secondary reactions to any type of trauma to the body. You got massive swelling that happens within the body and the tissues from your head to your toe, so it makes it so much more real. The more like just the worse these autopsy reports are.
Like even with the stabbing, there's automatic body reaction, muscle memory and such, but just to think of when you do get stabbed and it's gonna make just to think about that too without really thinking about it before, and then that just adds even more like I don't even know just the shock of everything, the even more brutality of it, and then it's not like the roommates were quiet when they were getting attacked. There's no way. How did you not hear Xana? Especially with her being the one that fought the most too. You're gonna say that she wasn't screaming for somebody as she's running, trying to save herself? She's not gonna be screaming for Ethan? And how they just...
The pain level alone would have made somebody scream. I don't know if you're aware of just how many nerve endings rest along the surface of your bone, and when those are sliced, especially by a K-bar knife, they're torn and ripped. They're not cleanly sliced. So it actually creates an intense burning sensation. So
Mm.
there's that level of pain with that many puncture wounds, and no one's going to say a word. No one's going to scream. I mean, I don't think that being intoxicated and sleepy is going to prevent you from crying out in that much pain.
No, there's
It's going to wake
a-
you up. It's going to bring you to real quick, if you ask, in my opinion.
and that kind of cry isn't going to be like you're missing a stuffed animal. That's a cry that's going to
Blood-curdling
be
scream.
right,
Yeah.
right. And to be laying there and Dylan hearing the crying before I'm here to, don't worry, I'm going to help you. That had to be one of the creepiest cries for help and pain. It would have to be so distinctive, it would have to make you sit back and go, oh my God, it's not a normal cry. And then you hear the crying stop after somebody's like, don't worry, I'm going to help you. And then it stops.
Mhm.
How could somebody not come to the common sense conclusion that, oh wow, something must have hurt even more to where she doesn't even make a sound now. It's just crazy. And then she gets 100,000 for GoFundMe, to help with pain and suffering. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't have a very high opinion of that whole situation.
It's just crazy. Trying to see if there's anything else that we wanted to cover. I'm going to be going through some of the grand jury stuff coming up here. I'm going to be back on. I'm going to be taking a break tomorrow. I am going to be back Thursday night. I'm not exactly sure what topic we're going to cover. But I will have a notification out sometime tomorrow for the show on Thursday on what we're going to cover. So it might. I have a feeling we might be covering some Murdaugh. I want to say this. What's that one that you sent me? Missy Beavers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That they never found the guy that killed Missy.
They have
They did.
someone that they've been watching, and it's actually a woman, but she
Whoa.
she had access in 4 different ways from people that were in her close inner circle, that she could have gotten what she was wearing in that photograph. Her father, husband, I believe son, they all were either in the police department or they sold tactical gear online.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I first came across that video and I watched it, and I was like, "What is this? A police officer at a church?" Because there's a shooter inside or something. And then I started to look up some other stuff, and I was like, "Oh shoot, that's the person that committed the crime." Because I remember seeing at the very end, it looked like they were bashing a window, and you could see things falling on the ground. And I was like, "What the heck was that?" And then it stopped. If you have any information, I'm like, "What the hell? What?" So I started looking it up, and I was like, "Whoa, that's somebody that actually went there looking." They went through door to door to door to door looking.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
that's
a
pretty
creepy
crazy.
video watching
It
them
is.
walk around
Yeah.
in the church like that.
Yeah, because at first you're like, "Oh, it's a police officer." You're thinking like they're looking for a shooter or something, but
Yeah.
no, No, it was actually.
Yeah.
So they still haven't charged anybody. They have a person of interest, just not necessarily charged. Huh?
Yeah.
10 years? Is that how long
Yeah.
it's been?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's been quite a while. Yeah. It's a interesting investigation when you break it down. It's just a lot of confusion that no one could figure out. There was absolutely no way to see any body features on that person. So
Yeah.
it was just like, where do you go from there?
Yeah, you couldn't even tell. I mean, honestly, unless you're like studying their walk, and even their walk was a little odd. That's why I thought maybe it was somebody elderly.
Hmm.
With all that gear on, they maybe had a hard time keeping balance or something. But honestly, you couldn't tell if it was male or female.
Yeah.
Like, really, and when you're looking, to me, I looked at it, I was like, oh, they must be looking for a shooter. So it was kind of interesting at the very end, the glass falling. It's like, what? Well, why'd they do that? Oh, they must have been busting in to catch the shooter. And then you look it up, and it's like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
They even the manner of death was withheld from the public for a long time. Also, they thought she was. I have to apologize. I'm having a cat issue over
Oh,
here.
you're fine. You're
I'm
fine.
sorry, but
You're
yeah,
fine.
they put out a really vague description of the manner of death, and it wasn't until recently that they released how she was actually killed.
How was she
Yeah.
killed?
She was shot, but when the police came out at first, they said it was just puncture wounds, and no one put two and two together for many years that she had been actually shot. And like the police kept that close to the vest.
She was shot inside the church, and nobody
Mhm.
heard the gunshot.
Yeah, well, it was 4 in the morning. No one was there.
Right, but not anybody. Was this church out in the middle of nowhere or something?
Well, it's Midlothian, Texas. It was in a nice neighborhood, nice area.
A lot of space, and if you have
Yeah.
some kind of suppressor pillow, something like that, it's not gonna.
But you
Huh.
got a church, if you've got a good distance in between any other building or business, it's going to be hard to hear that. And it's not a small church, and if you're within those rooms, it's going to be harder to hear
Right.
a gunshot.
Hmm.
You know.
Wow. Yeah. Crazy stuff. So, yeah, I do want to do a show on that in the future too with you, just to learn more about it. Because yeah, like I said, you watched that video, and I was just like, what is it? I don't what a
Yeah.
church shooting, and then you look up Missy Beavers. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You said a lady. You
Mhm.
you think it was a
I think it
lady, or
was. I do. Yeah. If
what do you
you
think the
watch the video enough, you can see certain feminine mannerisms that she has. And they do believe that her walk, the really goofy walk she
yeah
had, because she was wearing men's shoes that were too big. So they were hard for her to move around in. And there's a connection between her and the woman that they think may be the
what's the
suspect.
what's
And
the
it has to
connection?
do with infidelity. There were marriage problems. And they think Missy Beavers may have had an affair with someone's husband. So
Whoa.
there's a lot of twists and turns in the case. There's financial problems that they thought might have made the husband do it, and then there's the possible infidelity.
Oh, you're fine.
She's having none of this.
It's like a
right now.
rainbow. It's like a rainbow. Man, that's crazy. Because it seemed like there would be some kind of jealousy or something involved.
Yeah, she
Um,
was
so
she was a fitness instructor, and she was doing classes, and she
at
had
the
been,
church?
yeah, in the early morning before, like between 4 and 5 in the morning. It was some kind of really rigorous workout. But she was reaching out to men at the police station, just running into them here and there. It was just to get them to come to her gym, and they think maybe that kind of sparked a relationship, and someone didn't like that. But there was never any proof that any witnesses, no one was speaking up, and it's just been kind of in limbo. People were worried it was a cold case, but the police just recently came out and said no, it is definitely still active.
Really?
Yeah. After this long, it's still very active.
And a police officer's wife might be involved in this?
Hmm.
Whoa. So do
Yeah.
you think there's some kind of push it under the rug because an officer is involved kind of thing? Is that
I think in the
what?
beginning, I think it slowed the investigation, and that's why it kind of trickled. Because it's a community of law enforcement that are involved in connections,
Damn.
especially with the suspect. I said her father was 32 years in the military, and he also had vintage riot gear, which is what she was wearing. And
Yeah.
then her husband was tactical law enforcement, and then her son. And I don't remember what the fourth connection with those the riot gear was, but there were 4 people that she was immediately connected to.
Wow. That's even deeper than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff when it first came out, nobody knew. It was just recently that they released a lot of this other information.
So it's been 10 years and they released this new information. Um how does I don't know, what do you think they're waiting on? What do you think, like, why do you think they're still interested in this lady, but yet it's been 10 years to the point that nothing has happened and they're releasing information that hasn't been put out in the past in hopes to ramp up any kind of conclusion to the investigation? I'd imagine that's why they released it. Why do you think it's in limbo?
Well, the woman did flee a year or 2 later. She fled Texas,
Yeah.
so that kind of slowed things down. But no one really understands why this has taken so long. The family hasn't. There's a group of women there in Texas that have gone to Midlothian.
They have gone
And
there
they've
to
gone
find
to the
answers?
church. Yeah, they've done their own investigation and actually given information to the investigators. So they've been kind of involved on the ground, and they're just as
Mm.
baffled as everyone else, but they've been following the suspect the police have. um, and I guess they're just waiting on just the right kind of evidence.
Mm.
But
So it
yeah,
sounds like the husband probably. So they what was the cop that supposedly had a relationship with her? Were they part of the, like? I guess they might not have even put that out. What did they mention? Any officers that were, I mean, if they're like looking at the wife like that, they would have to look at the husband too, because if it wasn't for their extramarital activity, then their spouse isn't getting upset.
Mhm.
So, was there
I
any,
know. I think
like,
there's
is
a
there an
lot of
officer's name out there that is associated with
there,
this?
there's not a lot of information that the police are giving to the public because it's still an investigation. But there is known officers who have been investigated with connection to Missy Beavers.
And so they, being an officer, probably. Yeah. Do you think this lady did it? Okay, so you think this lady did it, right?
Mhm.
Do you think she did it on her own? Like, do you think she had help from this officer that was her husband that she caught cheating?
Well, that's an interesting question because surveillance video did show a black SUV in the parking lot. Now, mind you, when all of this happened, it was storming and raining, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's pitch black. No one's around, and there was the black SUV found in the parking lot, and then across the street, there's like it's the church, a highway, and then a shopping center across the street. There's a gun store in that shopping center, and there was a vehicle that pulled into the gun store parking lot and sat there for maybe 3 minutes and then pulled away and then came back around. I want to say near the time of when they think the murders ended, and the car and the black SUV both disappeared. But they were seen sitting in those parking lots, and someone driving to work actually called law enforcement to report it. And
Oh,
that's how they
wow.
knew there were two vehicles. They were able to get the surveillance footage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems to me like he would. Because even though you're married to an officer, I don't see you knowing, hey, this, make sure you do this. Like, even the different shoes or something like that. Hey, make sure you wear guys' shoes, size whatever. That way, like little tips and things like that to make sure that she doesn't get busted with it. It almost seems to me like, man, she had to have had some help, not necessarily inside, but some help on, hey, dress in police gear, wear different sex size shoes. Make sure when you leave you do this, make sure when you're inside here you do it like this. Like,
Mhm.
I don't, not to say that it can't happen, but to me it would seem like, damn, well, your husband's a police officer. You say you're gonna, you know, you go to your police officer husband like, look, I'm gonna kill this bee. I'm gonna kill her.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you can either help me or you can just keep your mouth shut. And like, who's to say there? Okay, honey, look, just do it like this. I mean,
Well, the people that she knew who had access to that riot gear would know if they saw the footage, oh crap, let me go check my closet. Because it's actually a vintage riot gear. It's an older style, which would have been around when her father was in law enforcement.
yeah, that's
And I believe
that's
he
why
had
I thought
died
about a school shooting.
previously, so she was able to get
Oh yeah,
her hands on those.
hmm.
I guess he
Yeah,
had
the riot gear. That's
Yeah.
why I was thinking it was a school shooting or something, or a church shooting, I guess. Is yeah, that geared up pretty good, like
Mhm.
geared up real good. So yeah,
Oh,
crazy
head to
stuff.
toe, everything.
Yeah,
She had
yeah,
everything
like
on.
yeah, literally head to toe.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know
I
how she moved around, but she had so much stuff on.
even the chest, like
Yeah.
all the stuff that was like big, bulky.
And the helmet with the visor pulled down so
Yeah,
you couldn't see her face.
yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
visor. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was just like, it was just weird because when I saw it, I was like, well, they're not like being very tactical. They're kind of nonchalantly walking around. looking indoors, I'm like, oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
what. Yeah, so it was very weird when I seen that video before I started looking stuff up. But
Yeah, once you
um,
start looking into it, it's extremely interesting.
yeah, it sounds very interesting. Just with that. What wasn't going to be interesting is in the last show, I told everybody I was going to do um, the Bubba interview from the Mackenzie Sharilla case, and I saw it was 4.5 hours, and there wasn't he really didn't add any value to Netflix, and I'm just like he probably didn't add any value to that one, and so I just decided to scrap it. So I'm not even gonna entertain that interview. But there is a bunch of other stuff. So there's different cases. Some other ones we haven't done shows on. One that we just talked about a second ago. Again, we'll be back here Thursday. I'll have a notification out tomorrow. I'm just not sure yet exactly which one I want to tackle, because there's a bunch I've been wanting to starting to discuss, especially the Murdaugh, the trial that's going to be coming up again, and then the new changes with the Stephen Smith case when it comes to that homicide. So we'll be here. Just I'll update the topic probably Thursday afternoon or something, or maybe even Thursday morning. So I want to say thank you all for being here. Thanks for hanging out, Jennifer. I'm so excited to check out that episode tomorrow where you guys are covering the Steve Sharilla interview on Cuomo. It's gonna be so hard for you to
Not say anything.
yeah, to oh, just wait until 10 minutes from now, Rosie. If I know it's gonna be hard for you not to say anything, but I bet it's gonna be such a fun
It's gonna
time.
be a good time.
Yeah, hanging
Yeah.
out with Rosie and the spontaneous reactions from I can't wait until that ringtone starts playing and seeing her reaction on that too. So
Yeah.
it's
So
gonna
if
be
anyone's
awesome.
around tomorrow,
Yeah,
come
9:30 a.m. Central. They'll be live. I'll be
we'll
listening.
get Rosie through it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Rosie and Jennifer together without me on the show. It's probably going to be a different kind of flavor, and I'm excited for it. So, when the girls get together, they act a little crazy. But again, thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging out on panel with us this last week. And we really appreciate not only the hard work that you do in the background, but the comfort and hanging out with us up here on the panel. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much. All right, guys. I think I'm going to do a little bit of gaming later at the lounge, so you can meet me over there, EvilleCJ's Lounge, if you want to hang out a little bit. Otherwise, I will see you all Thursday night, same time. And then obviously Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Be doing a lot of shows coming up this weekend too. I'll see you on the next one, and I'll see you in chat on the show tomorrow. I'm so excited. Now I can't wait to go to bed to then wake up and hear you guys talk about that interview. So excited. I love you guys. Stay safe. Have a peaceful, positive evening. And we'll see you on the next time we're on. Appreciate
Bye,
you guys.
everyone.
Stay safe.